right, boys, game 2 is coming up tonight, but overall, the series did not start on a good note. The Wolves need to get back into this series after going down 1-0. Thursday night now, coming up here, game 2. So let's jump into this. Obviously, the big topic of conversation, Joe, and you wrote about this over on Timberwolves on SI, has been the style of play of one SGA, the MVP of the league, and the amount of fouls he draws. And OKC fans getting all upset about stars always getting the same amount of fouls as he get, or free throw attempts as he get. But that's not the point, as you wrote over on Timberwolves on SI. It's the style of play that is awful to watch and has been the topic of conversation among the national media over the past couple of days since that blowout loss in game 1, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, Thunder fans are kind of obtuse to this whole point. The point is, let me put it this way. Nobody's invalidating OKC's greatness. Nobody's invalidating SGA's greatness. Nobody's invalidating anything about a team that won 68 games and had the best defense in the league. We all know that. They're elite on defense. And who are we going to argue? Who are we to argue that if Anthony Edwards is coming out and saying, yeah, they're tough on defense. They're switching it up. Great team speed, size. They're physical. They do everything really well on that end of the floor to confuse you and make it very tough. And they're big down low too. So they spread the floor. It's a beautiful thing to watch. It's kind of like what the Timberwolves did teams last season when they had the two bigs with Cat and Rudy kind of anchoring the paint. So nobody's invalidating anything. It's just that Thunder fans are blind to the fact that their star player, their MVP of the league, is an absolute foul grifting, swindling machine. He's a fraud. I mean, and it's kind of a insult to basketball. I mean, I guarantee you, if an Oklahoma City fan watches an OKC versus Philadelphia game and Joel Embiid flops all over the place, they're going to bitch about it. I guarantee you that they would watch Houston Rockets versus OKC games in the past, and James Harden would flop and find his way to fouls all day long. And I'm guaranteeing you they would complain about that. So here in Minnesota, or fans in Denver, or fans in Houston, wherever you want to put yourself, if you're watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander play basketball and you don't come up with that same opinion, you don't care about the game and you don't care about your team. It's hard to watch. It's hard to stomach. It's unpleasant. And in a way, it's kind of bad for basketball. But here's the thing. I think it's great that it happened in game 1 because we watched the Knicks and the Pacers in game 1 Wednesday night, and it was anything goes, no holds barred. Obi Toppin pump dunked in overtime to kind of seal the deal late last night, and he got his jersey grabbed and he got slapped on the arm, and there was no call. I think the NBA sent a message. I mean, I'm just going off my logic here. I think the NBA sees those horrible TV ratings for game 1 of OKC Minnesota and says, if there's anything we can do to get people's eyeballs on this series, we need to do that. So, hey, if people are complaining nationwide that SGA is a grifter, then let's not reward the grifter, okay? Let's not reward the bum on the street corner begging for money when he's fully capable of getting a job on his own. That's what I'm saying right now. That's what SGA is, and it's bad for the game, and I think the league is going to take immediate notice of it, and if they don't, we've got a problem.
If there's anything America loves doing these days, it's rewarding grifters. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair.
So if the NBA decides we're not going to do that, that'll be a step in the right direction finally after a decade of doing this. Tony, it's not like we're all saying that the only reason the Thunder won on Tuesday night was because of the easy whistle that SGA was getting. No, I think it's perfectly obvious, and the Wolves have stated themselves, they didn't play up to their normal standards. They got beat. I mean, it was the second half was awful for the Timberwolves, not because of the fouls that were given to SGA. He got most of his fouls in the first half, if you look at the numbers. It's just that style of play, as Joe said, is awful to watch. It's horrendous. The flopping, the faking out, and acting like you've been shot every time a guy comes within 5 feet of you. That is hard to stomach. That is hard to watch in a series where you're deciding who's going to go to the finals. That should not be the way we're deciding who's going to go to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think it's a even more nuanced conversation, I guess, because you really can go with the whole sport of basketball, and I think we're starting to see a generation of basketball players now that saw James Harden really manipulate the rules and how the refs call the game and bend the rules, and that's all SGA is doing. And I do think he'd keep playing at an NBA level or MVP level if he wasn't doing this and he just played straight up and tried to score the basketball instead of try to get fouled. It's just so frustrating to watch. And now there's going to be an even another generation of kids that are playing AU basketball right now that are going to do the same thing. I saw
I
Trey
saw that.
he was getting interviewed by Kevin O'Connor, Trey Johnson, an NBA draft pick, lottery pick, and he asked him what trait would you want from an NBA player? And he said, "Oh, I'd want SGA's ability to create fouls. If I got 9 extra free throws a game, then it would just be a lot easier." And that's how people think, and it's just the NBA needs to fix it because basketball wasn't created for who can draw the most fouls. It's now just turned into like a mini game of just free throws, and it's just boring to watch. And
Well,
yeah, it's just that's a much bigger thing in a vacuum. The complaining about SGA doing it in this series, I think it'll get fixed, and it is a little dramatic. It's game one. A lot of the Wolves fans haven't been watching the Thunder, and it stood out. And I think the NBA will fix it a little bit, but yeah, it was just tough to watch in game one.
yeah, and here's the problem, and OKC Thunder fans are blind to this as well. It's like, why is Lou Dort or Jalen Williams or Alex Caruso allowed to basically hug and embrace and grasp and grip and hold and tug and do all of that on one end of the floor? And on the other end of the floor, the Wolves, they're allowed to do the same thing with everybody else on the team, but SGA. Why is it that SGA just gets this friendly whistle? It's literally only him, and it's because the way he sold the facial expressions, the way he initiates weak grazing contact and then falls to the floor like he's been hit by a grenade. I mean,
the way he drags his foot as if he was tripped when he was the one who initiated the tripping.
He tripped Jaden McDaniels. The way he falls to the ground and acts like Anthony Edwards is totally preventing him from getting up. It's like, my God, you're a grown man. Act like it. He's playing like it's a game within the game. And hey, look, if you're going to get away with it and that gives you the leg up, good for SGA for taking advantage of the situation. This is not an SGA problem. It's a league problem. The league can stop it right away. Yep. SGA, you take away all his free throws this season, he made 601 of them. He still averaged over 24 a game. That would have been 11th in the league when everybody else had their free throws. So the guy is an absolute machine. He deserves MVP consideration. Phenomenal talent, right? But he's ruining the game, and it's really hard to watch. And it's an officiating issue, and it's a him only issue. I mean, literally, he's the guy getting these calls. It's just not fair. It's a paradox when on one side of the floor, everybody's allowed to kind of rough and tumble each other and play a physical brand of basketball, which is what everyone expects in the playoffs, players, coaches, fans alike. But then on the other end, SGA gets this sick whistle. It's just stupid, and it doesn't belong in the game. It's not only disrespectful to the teams that are playing the Thunder, it's disrespectful to Jalen Williams and everybody else, Chet Holmgren on OKC, who doesn't get the same whistle. So why does SGA get this preferential treatment? It shouldn't exist, and it has to stop.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a consistency thing, and that anyone who watches basketball and complains about officials, I would hope most of them just have that opinion. Like, if you're going to call it, then call it on everyone. And the sport would be unwatchable if you did that. So hopefully they don't, and they call it less on SGA.
Yeah, and I imagine, as we were talking about off air, I imagine we'll see something different. We'll see a different brand of whistle in game 2 tonight between these two sides. I imagine that the NBA has seen the outrage. As Joe said, we saw a different whistle last night in that Knicks-Pacers game. So hopefully that carries over into game 2. Overall, not just looking at game 2, but if the Wolves want to win this series, after what you saw in game 1, what do they need to do better, Joe, than they did on on Tuesday night. Not just don't get within 5 feet of Shea so you don't foul, so you don't get drawn for a foul for some reason. What overall do they need to improve on to be able to come out of this series and go to the finals?
Well, I think making shots would be smart.
That would help.
I mean, you can't shoot 38% for the game and just god awful from downtown and expect to win. I mean, the Thunder are packing the paint. It's brilliant. They're basically sending double teams beyond the 3-point line to get to Anthony Edwards, and then they're playing like a hybrid zone where they're packing the paint. And the result is a lot of open looks from three for the Timberwolves. They just didn't make them. The Timberwolves are a very good three-point shooting team. DiVincenzo's pissing everybody off because he's flat out sucked the entire postseason with his shot. It's weird. It's like he started his tenure with Minnesota this season, and he was god-awful for like a month. And then he got red hot, and he stayed scorching hot for the rest of the season, even after he came back from his toe sprain. And then in the playoffs, it's like he regressed back to that early season form where he couldn't hit anything. Last year for the Knicks, he was a god in the playoffs, and he was scoring 30 a game some nights. So that version of shot-making DiVincenzo has to return. Naz Reid had a bad night. We know he'll come back. He was hitting 46% of his threes entering that game. I think he'll be fine. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's got to hit some shots. He struggled as well. He has not been good in 2 straight postseasons with his shot. It's like the pressure got turned up, and he's losing money because he's in a contract season. And then Mike Conley has to hit shots as well. I mean, all these guys got to hit shots, and Anthony Edwards has to be more aggressive. But if they're going to pack the paint and make it impossible for Edwards to really get a lot of good looks, then he's going to be doing a lot of driving and kicking. And it is the others who have to step up and make the shots. And when you've got Naz and Conley and Na and DiVincenzo shooting a combined, like, I don't know, what was it, 6 for 38 or something like that, it ain't going to work. So they're kind of the linchpin to keeping this series close. And then I will say this too, Rudy Gobert played like a princess, and he was not a powerful man like he's supposed to be. Remember late in the season, everybody's like, oh my God, Rudy's turned it up a notch, and he's starting to dunk on people and enforce his will. You know, where was that in game 1? He was pirouetting like a ballerina trying to make these fancy layups in transition. I was like, dude, you're 7'1". Jump with both your feet and hammer that through the hole as hard as you possibly can. And he's not doing it. So I don't know what happened. Maybe it's distractions with his personal life, getting out there and TMZ and whatnot, but he's got to bring some absolutely beastly mentality to game number 2 and the rest of the series, because he was not it in game 1. And maybe that's why Chris Finch benched him and he only played 21 minutes. Maybe there's more to the story, and maybe it's not that Finch was just trying to experiment with a different lineup to get some rhythm going, because they were beating the Thunder when Rudy was on the court. And when Rudy didn't play most of the second half, they got their ass whipped. So maybe his head wasn't there. It wasn't right, but he's got to play a more ferocious brand of basketball.
Yeah, and Tony, you can't have Julius Randle score 20 in the first half and then just be non-existent in the third quarter. You need consistency across all 4 quarters. You need to have guys show up all across the game. I mean, Julius Randle was a beast in that first half. Felt like OKC couldn't stop him. And then second half, especially in the third quarter, he didn't score a basket. He had, I think, 1 rebound, maybe the entire third quarter, was just taken completely out of the game in the third. And then it was a blowout at that point, and the Wolves were just trying to play catch up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Joe said. And
as you should.
I think they need to get a little more out of their bench, but I think a big thing is stopping the Thunder's big runs. They talked about it a little bit on the broadcast of that game, that's really why they've been so good this year. And it's very college team thing to do, to go on these big 15-0 runs, 20-0 runs when the other team goes cold. And when they have as good of a home court advantage as they do, when they're at home, they do that very efficiently and effectively. And I think that was a big reason why they got so far behind in that third quarter. The Thunder just started out super fast, went on a huge run, and then the Timberwolves were just in too big of a hole, and they couldn't pull themselves out of it. And for all of the reasons to not get in that hole, I agree with what Joe has said, but like, they need to just avoid that, because when you do go into a hostile environment, you kind of just lose all the momentum, and then you're panicking. They are professionals, and it happens way less than it does in college, but they need to avoid doing that, because if it happens, then it just, like, you can't respond to that, especially when you're on the road. And I think if they avoid that big punch, that big 12-0, 15-0 run or 15-2, I think they'll be able to stay in this game. And then if they get a big night out of one of those bench guys, I think they're going to be able to at least be competitive to the end, even in OKC in this series, in this game, especially when they're back at home. But if they want to steal one on the road, I think they're going to have to avoid that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to get the win tonight. Come home with an even series and get the home court advantage that the Wolves do have at Target Center, which is probably the best remaining in the playoffs, I would say. New York might give it a shout, but I think Minnesota's
No, New York Madison Square Garden is garbage now. There's a big article about that today. It's like, man, they don't have the home court advantage anytime they play at home anymore.
It's like $900 to get into the arena.
Ugh,
yeah, I know. Unless you're Timothy Chalamet, you're not, or Ben Stiller. I mean, you're not getting in.
Yeah, but they're not paying for tickets. Those are gifted by the Knicks. Come on, let's be honest.
You think so? I don't know.
It's a celebrity. They never have to pay for tickets.
Probably not. All I know is they're all frauds. But I can't wait for how conflicted Chalamet is going to be in the NBA Finals.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Why would he be? Because of Bob Dylan?
Yes.
I feel like he's a diehard Knicks fan. I don't think he'll be conflicted.
Well, he ain't going to die hard, I'll tell you that.
All right, let's go to a topic that, Joe, you brought up on Twitter today. You have a poll out there on your own personal Twitter feed at Joey Brainstorm. Jalen Williams or Jaden McDaniels, who would you rather have for the next 10 years? Both 24 years old, both great in their own right. Jaden McDaniels, incredible defensive play. Jalen Williams, to speak off the bat, just the thing that pops out to you is incredible speed from this guy. Just wild, just game-breaking speed on those fast breaks. So let's pose the question to you guys. Joe, you put the question out there. I'll let you respond second. But first, Tony, who would you rather have over the next 10 years?
I always thought if I was a GM of a sports team, I'd be a big interview and personality guy that you got to have the interview well. And to be honest, I think Jalen Williams comes off really weird and I wouldn't want him on my team.
Wow.
And Jaden McDaniels, he seems like a guy that all he does is play basketball and maybe play video games and hang out with his girlfriend. Jalen Williams seems like he's I don't know, reading books at halftime or something weird.
Like AJ Brown.
Yeah, I feel like he'd do something weird he's got
with reading books
captions.
God, you're gonna hate JJ McCarthy.
But I don't know.
Problem with reading books. We're not in Oklahoma. Come on.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's a pop-up.
Yeah, I don't know. Jaden McDaniels and Jalen Williams are very similar players, and in all honesty, I could get talked into either guy. But the personality thing, Jalen Williams he calls himself J-Dub. That's kind of weird.
Well, there's a nickname. That's why.
Yeah, but I don't know. He gave himself the nickname.
Yeah, he would immediately request a trade if you were the GM. He'd be like, "This guy's an a-hole. I'm out of here."
Yeah,
this guy hates me.
Take him into my office and I'd be like, all right, dude, what's up with you? But yeah, I don't know. I take McDaniels. I like him. He seems like a guy I'd want to hang out with. So J-Dub does not.
It is a good debate, though. I mean, I thought this was really interesting. I think most people at league-wide would probably take Jalen Williams. I would take Jalen Williams if I had to choose right now. Again, the age is similar. McDaniels, was second-team All-NBA defense last year. He did not get a nod this year. He was snubbed, and a big reason he was snubbed is because Jalen Williams got second-team All-NBA defense. So he's elite on both ends of the floor. And here's what's really where I find it interesting. And I don't know if others have made this comparison, but you know how Jaden has been kind of coined like Anthony Edwards, Scottie Pippen? He's got that two-way player ability to him when his offensive game is going. I think Jalen Williams is a much better comp for Scottie Pippen in real life. I mean, he's 6'6", he's a little bit shorter, but he plays incredible defense. He's, like Jonathan said, lightning fast in transition. He can score at the rim. You know how it seems like every time Jaden attacks the rim, it's kind of a clunky struggle to get there? Well, Jalen Williams is smooth and explosive, and he's a better three-point shooter than Jaden McDaniels is. And I would argue that there's some merit there that he's as good of a defender as Jaden. Now, I think Jaden gets the shorter straw because Jaden's asked to guard the best player on the opposing team almost every single night. And in OKC, you have first-team All-NBA, All-Defense player Lou Dort to kind of do that, and Alex Caruso coming off the bench, so there's a little less pressure on Jalen Williams. But Williams is a phenomenal talent, and if you just look at the analytics, which I don't think tells the whole story, he's far and away a better, more efficient player. I mean, his player efficiency rating's like 20, Jaden's is like 13. His scoring is up 21.6 per game, but then again, he's the number 2 in OKC, where Jaden's like number 4 in Minnesota when it comes to being asked to score, probably 5. So if they were both in the same positions, though, on a similar team, I think Jalen Williams is just slightly better. And I know on my poll, even though it's not getting a ton of votes, most fans are picking Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, it's last I checked, and I just updated it right here. Jaden McDaniels getting 68.7% of the vote to Jalen Williams 31.3%. Though that may just be Minnesota bias because obviously from Minnesota, you have that Minnesota audience. They probably will choose the Wolves player at this point. All right, I want to bring up one last thing on this series. Will Ragatz wrote over on Timberwolves on SI 4 reasons for optimism heading into Game 2. And I want you guys to rank these in terms of how optimistic they make you feel about tonight and how we should feel about tonight's game, Game 2. Positive shooting regression. Will says it can't always be that bad of shooting like we had in Game 1. A better whistle, as we've talked about already, that's potentially on docket for tonight, that it's not going to be as soft and easy of a whistle for SGA as it was the other night. Ant doesn't stay quiet for long. He's probably going to come out fired up, probably a little bit pissed off and angry that they're down already in the series. And then general resilience. This team has shown an incredible will to just bounce back after bad moments this season. They've gone through a lot of adversity, and this is just the latest test. So Joe, I'll start with you. Rank those in order of things you're most optimistic about for tonight.
Positive shooting regression. 1, Anthony Edwards, you can't hold him down for long. 2, I think, we're talking a lot about everybody but Ant, which is kind of funny because he's the straw that stirs the drink here. I mean, this guy's a monster, and I think he's going to get pissed off because everybody's saying he's not as good as SGA. He's going to have something to prove on an individual level tonight as well, and I think it really ramps him up. And then what were the other ones? It was
general resilience was the last one.
General resilience. I don't know. Did I miss one else? Well,
no, there's only 4.
I only did 2.
Better whistle. Better whistle was the other one.
Oh yeah, the better whistle. Yeah, the better whistle is gonna matter for sure because I think the Wolves are going to be able to defend at a more ferocious style, that suits them. It'll be a much closer game because of that. And then whatever the last one was, that one.
Tony.
I think my biggest reason for optimism would be kind of the resilience thing, because they lost, I think, back-to-back games, once in February, once in March, and then they haven't done it in the playoffs yet. So since Julius Randle has been healthy, they've responded very well after a loss. And I think it's entirely fair to expect the positive shooting regression and a better whistle. So, for the reason I said before, if they can avoid that big Thunder run, I think they're going to be competitive in the end of this game. And what was the fourth one again? It was
damn it, Jonathan. So many options.
There's only 4. Will's not testing you guys this much. Come on.
It was Edwards. Yeah.
Positive shooting regression. Ant doesn't stay quiet for long. Better whistle and general resilience.
I'm cramping up over here, so I'm struggling. I got to go number 2. I feel like Shaq on the set of TNT right now. It's a struggle. Oh, my God.
Like Paul Pierce in the playoffs.
I'm sweating. It's so bad. Oh.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Anthony Edwards, he every time personality-wise, I just buy into the fact that it seems like he's always going to come out of the locker room and turn it on, but I feel like every time I expect him to have a big game, he doesn't. So I'll put that last. And I feel like he kind of always goes off when I least expect it.
I'm going to be late for the second half. I'll be in the locker room a little longer here.
All right, we'll let Joe go. He's struggling right now, just
am.
squirming over there. So
Yeah.
that'll be
I
it.
wouldn't want to be the next one in this room, I'll tell you that.
All right, that's it. That's how we're gonna end the show today. Hit subscribe to the channel. Does help us get found. Notifies you every time we got a new video. Joe, have fun.